So a topic in the limb different community is about like education and dealing with comments, looks, stares, those kinds of things. Every day of my life, I will at least get looked at because of my limb difference. And that's okay. I'm comfortable with it. It gets irritating every now and then, but for the most part, it's just something I accept. Sometimes though, those interactions are not positive, even if it's an education-based interaction, because kids have questions. I am all for answering questions and educating the youth and everything, or anybody that has any questions. I'm okay with that. And like 90% of the time, they're positive interactions. And then there's the rest of the time that's not. And I have a story to share about a recent one that was not a positive one. Save for part 2. So the story is, I recently went to Lucky Fin Project weekend meetup in Michigan. Yay. Got to see my Fin fam for the first time in 3 years because of, the panorama and everything. Kind of messed up all of our plans. So before that, if you guys don't know, I have 3 kids. I have 3 boys. I took them to the Detroit Zoo to have some fun before we went to the meetup, because we drove all the way from Virginia, and also wanted to make it like something fun for them and not just about, mom. Which it's a great experience for them too. Don't get me wrong, they enjoyed going and meeting all of the amazing limb different kids and families there too. But we went to the Detroit Zoo, and I didn't wear my prosthetic. It was hot. I didn't want to wear it. And I had been driving all day, so I really wasn't in the mood. So I'm walking around like this, just regular mom. And then we had a little interaction. Click for the next part. Sorry, guys. So the story continues. We're walking around the Detroit Zoo. I see some glances here and there, not a big deal. Lots of school groups are present, or summer camps because it's summer. So lots of kids in like matching shirts with multiple adults in charge. We are standing in line to get food at one of the concession stands, and not in front of me, but one group in front of that one. Little friend, I'm going to say, but somewhere between the ages of 9 and 11. Psh, psh, buddy, like, hey, look at her, noticeably. My kids are around and everything. It's not like they haven't seen kids do that before. But still, it's one of those ones that draws your attention. And so my thing is to interact with the kids, to give them purpose, to encourage them to talk to me and not just point at their friends and make other people stare. So I go, hey, what's up? You got a question? I've said it a million times. Nothing at all negative in my opinion of like asking a child if he has a question. So for my spot, all I do is go, hey, what's up? You got a question? That's it. I don't say anything else. The adult that was standing near him, young 20s, very young, turned around halfway and goes, you speak to him? And I was like, I did. I asked him if he had a question about my arm, and I went like this. And he looked back kind of half-eyed and then said, he's just a kid. And I was like, I'm aware, which is why I wanted to educate him and like tell him it was okay to ask a question, and that he should know that I didn't want him to assume that this was an accident or anything to be scared of, that sometimes people are born different. He did not look at me anymore. He went like this, thumbs up from the back of his body. And the kids didn't interact anymore. And I felt some sort of way because of the adult that was in charge. Click for the next part. So because the way the adult handled it, I feel very defeated in a way. Also, it just brings about some mixed feelings that I have about how all of the responsibility falls on the individuals with disabilities and differences. That was awkward. That we are the ones that are responsible for educating and including ourselves in the environment. I feel like the adult could have handled it a little bit differently. And I'm not asking anybody ever to, don't ever scold a child for looking or having questions. Encourage them to interact, make it a positive experience. Or you say, hey, maybe it's not nice to stare. Never scold them or anything, because then that makes them fearful of anybody that's different. But he didn't do anything. Go for the next part. Sorry, it's long. So after we order our food and stuff like that, there was no further interaction with this group or anything. We went about our business. We sat down at the table and I talked to my own children who were with me. So my boys are 13, 10, and 7 currently. They saw what happened. They did not speak or say anything during the interaction. My 13-year-old acknowledged that he did not believe that that was a good interaction. And I said, no, it really wasn't. And I pointed out again that it is not the kid's fault, responsibility, or anything like that. The adult was unfortunately not very supportive of encouraging or engaging the interaction. They were just very shut off to the idea. Let me also say that in front of me, there was the family in front of me was an older gentleman and his grown child who had Down syndrome as well. And then behind me was somebody using a mobility device. So there were 3 of us right there. Perfect example. Go to the next part. So my whole thing with interacting with people is because I feel comfortable on educating people and interacting and having questions presented, that I'm hoping that it makes it a little bit more normal to see somebody that's different. So maybe either they're just comfortable talking to them as a human, or they are comfortable asking appropriate questions that I could guide them, like, because sometimes there are people that don't want to talk about their difference. It could have been traumatic for them. They could not have the comfort and the confidence within themselves with their difference currently. They could be struggling. They could just want to be left alone. And some days I'm like that too. So I try to put forth myself to educate, to help the quote unquote able-bodied community, understand how to interact with those of us that are different. Go to the next part. So right there with that group of us, myself with a limb difference, somebody using a mobility device behind me, and in front of us was another person with a visible disability having Down syndrome. It was a perfect opportunity to point out, like, look, we're all out here. We're all doing the same thing. You're here at the zoo. I'm here at the zoo with my kids doing fun things. They're at the zoo to enjoy it with their family. We're all the same. Like, we all are human. We're just different. And it's okay to interact with society that way. We shouldn't tell our kids, like, well, he's just a kid. Well, I understand that. And we're hoping for the next generation that we can continue to educate people and change for the better. We don't want to keep pushing forward this exclusion, or don't look at them, because then that makes them uncomfortable. And that's another form of exclusion for the disability community. So this happened, almost a week ago. And I'm just now kind of sort of talking about it. I had only shared it with like one person at our meetup in Detroit and said what happened. And I was pretty still like aggravated when I first talked about it. And now I've had time for perspective and processing and realizing that, yeah, there's still a stigma. There's still, like, as much as we have progressed, there's still that hands-off approach to those with differences, or just saying, well, just brushing off responsibility to teach people. And it all kind of falls on us as the disabled community to educate everybody. So it's a lot. And, I feel like we still have a long way to go, unfortunately.